Hello, writer, and welcome to Manuscript to Marketplace Conversations from Within Publishing. When I first began putting this series together, I had an idea that I would have some really cozy, informal chats with some of my clients and colleagues from this industry in an attempt to pull back the curtains on this rather opaque and overwhelming industry, and hopefully also share with you a sense of realizing that the women and the human beings within this industry and in every realm of it are just that. They are lovely, book-loving, word smiths and kind human beings to a great degree. What I also found was a level of community, kindness, and mutual regard that has been extremely moving to me in putting this together, and that I am so excited to be able to continue by sharing this series with a larger audience, as opposed to originally just the students within my signature program, a Writing Life of Your Own. And also beyond that, even making availability or facilitating connections between the speakers who we speak with in these interviews over the course of this series and you, the watchers and listeners. So again and again in this in this half decade of my business and beyond, and working in the publishing industry, I'm amazed at how often people, and women in particular, say yes to giving of their time, to giving of their experience, to giving of their expertise and their knowledge and their talent, and to giving of a sense of reassurance and community that we are often, as writers, we feel is not accessible to us. So I hope in joining us here in Manuscript to Marketplace, you find not only a wealth of information and incredible nuanced experience from within different realms of the publishing industry, but that you also find a sense of community, a feeling of belonging to a wider group of people, of powerful and impressive and kind and giving women who are in these trenches with you. And in that vein, I will invite you to join us in the Virago Collective, which is our free online community, and to reach out via the links provided within the lessons if you wish to speak directly one-on-one with any of our guests. Not all of them are, of course, available through the directory, but a number of them are. And we're really pleased as we move from Juniper Editing and Creative to KJV Co to offer this really incredible and unique opportunity to connect with the Co, to be part of the Co, to become one of the many incredible people that this brand and this community relies on, embraces, and wants to empower and uphold. So with that said, this first lecture, and on that word, I will take a sip of water. The concept for this kind of first primary lecture came to me as we were filming the interviews. It occurred to me that it would be extremely helpful to you as people interested in the workings of the publishing realm to have a fundamental overview of what an ideal or a typical process of taking a rough draft manuscript and making it a legitimately published book would look like. And with that in mind, I'm going to walk you through what that looks like from my perspective, what my recommendations are in terms of what your expectations should be. So we know there's so much information out there about the publishing industry, about what you should and shouldn't be doing, who you should and shouldn't be working with. There's also a wealth of people out there offering their support and their expertise, many of whom have incredible expertise and certifications and experience, and some of whom do not, or they just simply aren't the right fit for you. So much of this creative process is about finding the right team, the team that gets you, that gets your vision and can deliver this book to its destined destination with integrity, with clarity, and with momentum. So I'm going to walk you then through the general process that I recommend that you as an aspiring published author take. And if any of this is if you've made any of the decisions that I advise against, don't fret. This is, as I say, it's my recommendation. It's an ideal scenario. If you find that you have done things slightly differently, or made some errors along the way, it's par for the course. I'm a big believer in all things happening for a reason, but I also believe in equipping writers with the information that they need to make the best decisions for them. And that's what we're here to do today. So with no further ado, we start with this first point where you've written your novel or your memoir. You're at a point in the writing where you've revised it, you've reworked it, and you're wondering, is now the right time for an editor? How do you know when is the right time to hire an editor, to go looking for an editor? And my answer to this, when clients and potential clients ask me this question, is the time to hire an editor is when you can no longer see the wood for the trees in your own manuscript. And by that, I mean when you feel like you don't know whether the changes that you're making to your book are beneficial and positive, or are doing damage to the story or the structure of your book, that is the time to hand it off to another person. When you feel like you can literally do no more, that is when you hand it off to an editor. And it's an incredibly powerful time to do that for several reasons. One, it's definitely time to take a break from the responsibility and the process and allow yourself the time and distance that will give you some fresh eyes on the project. You'll also be benefiting so much from having another set of eyes on your project who will present things to you in ways that will give you new outlooks, new vantage points to your story, and allow you to gain a little bit more of that perspective and distance from your story that, when you've been writing it for months, years on end, is very difficult to get. So that is when you're ready for an editor, when you literally feel like you've done everything you can and you just don't know where to go from here. So next up, how and where do you find a great editor, the editor that's right for you? Now, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. Many people will recommend official directories, for instance, like the Editors Association of Canada directory, the American Editors Association directory. These are very good places to find reputable and very, very well experienced and certified editors. They are a little bit old-fashioned at times, but you'll be able to look through a huge selection of very legitimate editors, and you'll be able to search them by keyword. So perhaps you're writing a queer rom-com a la Casey McQuiston. In that case, you can put queer rom-com in those keywords and see if an editor within that directory works on queer rom-coms, queer fiction, popular fiction, and so on and so forth. Another great and slightly more modern and up-to-date way of accessing a similarly impressive group of editors is through reedsy.com. And this is a really impressive suite of publishing professionals through this directory, I believe. Well, there's I am an editor on there, but I know you can find publishing professionals of other kinds as well. I rarely am available through there because I'm rarely available in general for editing projects these days. But in order to appear in the Reedsy directory, editors have to have undergone an interview process and edited books that are traditionally published. So again, this is another great place to find a huge selection of editors, a more kind of a younger, more modern audience in general, and it's a great kind of platform to compare. You can kind of apply to work with several editors at once and compare their proposals, which is obviously a really useful way of finding out what your likely budget is likely to be and things like that. It also allows you to work entirely through the platform so that you feel all the more supported and safe in, for instance, transferring money to your editor and expecting the work back in a timely and fashion as the deadlines are agreed on. So lastly, I would also recommend looking, if you are on social media, if you use Instagram. Instagram is a fabulous place to find the editors that really most align with your values. And there's a lot of young editors on Instagram these days. There's more and more every single day. You're looking for the kind of person that you would hang out with, have a cup of coffee with, enjoy working with over a long period of time, and who embodies the values that you do as an author. So Instagram is another great place to find an editor. But of course, it's more of it's arguably more work in terms of seeking out the right person and building a working relationship with them. So those are some of my most recommended ways of finding an editor. And again, what you should be looking for is not who has the most years experience, who's worked with the most famous author, but who do you feel most comfortable with, and who do you feel will understand what you're writing about. So this takes us on to the third point, which is what to ask them and what to look out for. And this goes along with also what they should be asking you. So some of the things that you should be asking them and looking out for and what they should be asking you. First off, they should be asking you, what is the genre of your manuscript? And this should be happening right off the bat. What is the genre of your manuscript? How long is it by a word count? What do you want to achieve with it? What do you want to do with it? What do you think it needs? And what is your timeline? So these are the kind of questions that any editor, professional editor worth their salt, will be asking you right off the bat. If an editor is asking you what you want, that is a huge red flag. Not because it's not a very considerate thing to do, but because as an editor, it is our job to engage with the manuscript and assess its editorial needs. As much of a talented writer as you may be, as well versed as you may even be in editing, it is not your job to say to an editor, I need a copy edit, I just need a proofread. It is within the editor's rights entirely to assess what that manuscript needs and what they are prepared to do with it. So, for instance, an editor may read your book or a sample and say, well, ideally, this book would require a developmental or substantive edit. If that's outside of your budget, I will be prepared to just perform the copy edit that will tidy it up or not. Because editing is an extremely involved process, it is imperative that you and your editor agree on what is going to be done and what those expectations look like. And it is imperative that your editor has the knowledge to tell you what your book really needs in order to be successful in the way that you have identified success being. So that's another thing you want to discuss is, what does success look like for you? What is it that you want? What outcome do you want from working with an editor and revising this book? Are you just looking to tidy this up and print it out in a nice stack of pages for friends and family? Take it to Walgreens and get it bound and the cover laminated, and just have a family history, for instance, or a collection of poetry that your friends and family can read? Or are you looking to be published by Penguin Random House and win awards or be on the New York Times bestseller list? Those are very different goals. And in order to achieve them, you're going to have a very different amount of work to do. And the earlier you can identify those goals, be honest about them, and find the appropriate support to help you get there, the better. So this is another thing that you should be considering. If you want to get published by a traditional publisher, what relationships does this editor have to the traditional publishing world? If the answer is none, then you need to take that into consideration when hiring them. And certainly your budget, the amount you pay for editing, is going to increase the more experience and success that editor has within the publishing industry. That's just a very natural outcome of supply and demand and experience. So again, what do you want? Be honest about it and be ready to pay for the expertise that you need to get you to where you want to go. And be ready to receive the honest truth from these people that you are assessing your work. Any editor worth their salt is going to tell you the honest truth about the realities and the realisticness of you achieving the goals that you're setting out to. Now, there's so many unexpected aspects to publishing. You cannot predict anything, but an editor who is literate in what the publishing industry is publishing right now, that engages with agents, that has relationships with agents, with publishers, with acquisitions editors, that gets their clients represented as I do, will be able to tell you, yes, this is you're of a, your writing is of a quality that this is realistic given we do this, this, and this. Or, you know what, this would be a waste of your investment at this time. I really recommend that you evolve your craft, that you work on your plot, or you understand this character or whatever it is before you get into this process. So, as I've said, if an editor is only asking you what editing you want, be very wary. what they should be offering you is either a page read or a manuscript assessment, after which they will tell you the editing that you need. And so some editors will give you a page read for free. Others will charge you for a manuscript assessment as the basic service, which is in its way kind of like a kind of an overview edit, where they give you lots of notes about what you should be doing to develop and evolve. When you work with my team, we work with a single process that takes you from the first the first point, which is a manuscript assessment, and gets you to the point where we send that first query letter to your first choice agent or publisher. So when we do the manuscript assessment, we have seen the book in its raw form and said, yes, we love it. We want to work with it over a long period of time, and we believe in it and your ability to be successful. And that's why we're taking you on. We will do the manuscript assessment, and part of that assessment at the end will give you the what you're required to do in terms of revisions at this point, and then what editing will come along with that afterwards. As we say, for us, it's a one package deal. So we charge a fixed price, and all of that is included. Many editors will charge based on the service, and so it will be, okay, I'll charge you this for a manuscript assessment, and you need then this kind of editing, and this is what that's going to cost, and so on and so forth. The type of edits and what they cost. So very, very briefly here, because this could, it could take all kinds of time. Generally, you can break editing down into developmental, substantive, copy editing, and proofreading. Developmental is big picture, editing, leaving notes for ideas, concepts, character development, plot expansion. It's a very big picture. It's still in the creative, messy phases of writing and coming up with ideas and making sure that the plot holds together. Substantive is that kind of editing with a more close line editing combined. So it's a real big overhaul of, we're going to make sure everything flows and works together whilst also tidying up the mechanics and the style of the prose. Copy editing is nothing creative, just editing for clarity, style, and correctness in terms of mechanics and grammar. And proofreading is the final stage, when the manuscript should be ideally immaculate, which is just picking out those last tiny small errors. So at this point, this early point in your process, there's no way that a proofread will suffice. You're looking at most likely a developmental or substantive edit. That is a realistic assessment of basically any writer's needs at this stage in the process. In terms of cost, again, it really depends, and it will relate to an editor's expertise, experience, and any number of other factors. But I would say that a very reasonable price for a copy edit, for instance, would amount to $2 for every 100 words, which for a 70,000 word manuscript would equal $1,400. For a substantive or a developmental edit, you could double that, and that would still be a reasonable, if high-end price. So for, say, $4,000 for a creative, substantive, developmental kind of edit. Again, this is based on what I believe are respectful rates for a role that is incredibly nuanced and extremely important to you getting to the point in your publishing journey where an agent or a publisher is going to pick up your book. So I've kind of described a little bit about what that looks like within working with my team. Just to cover that, if we decide to agree to work with you and represent you, bring your book to pitchable, the pitchable stage, we will do a manuscript assessment. We will return that to you. It's about a 20-page report, very thorough, on the strengths, weaknesses, challenges of your book and what we suggest you do with it. You will then revise relating to that and then send it back to us when it will get edited. This could look like a developmental edit and then a copy edit. It could look like a substantive edit. We do whatever needs to be done to get it to a really, really cohesive place. And then we send it back to you again. You revise relating to the notes that are in the manuscript this time. And then we get started on researching the right publisher or agent for you. You pick your first choice, and then we write the query letter for that first choice, and we proofread and super duper polish the pages that you're going to submit with your query to ensure that your what you send to your agent or publisher of choice is immaculate and prepared. And I will say that we've to date, in the last 18 months of doing it this way, we've secured 5 of our clients an agent or publisher of their choice, which is pretty exciting. So, as you can probably tell, revision is going to happen over and over and over again. It is likely that, every author who writes a book underestimates how much their book is, they're going to have to revise this manuscript before it becomes published. The interesting and ironic thing is, the more successful you are as an author, the more you will have to revise. That sounds maybe counterintuitive, but it's true, because the further along the line in this process you get, the more times you're going to be asked to revise. So just let that be something that you get okay with, that you feel prepared for, and that you embrace, rather than feel like is an assessment or a judgment of your, of any kind of poor writing on your account. It's just a fact that publishing a book takes a lot of work, in particular for the person who's written it. Okay, so let's go on to pitching here. Whew, take a little breath here. So the first question is, are you going to be, when your manuscript is edited and you feel you're ready to pitch it to the world, are you going to be pitching it? Are you going to be querying agents or publishers, or both? Of course, this is also the time where you could choose to self-publish or independently publish. And that's a whole other thing in its own right. I'm not going to go into it here, because self-publishing is by its nature a supportive and informative process in itself. That's not to say that there's not a lot that a non-partisan person within the industry could give to you, could inform you of. But for right now, we're going to focus on pitching to literary agents and traditional publishers. So every agent and every publisher has their own individual requirements. And it's very important, it's crucial that you make sure that you are very clear on exactly what any agent or publisher that you query wants from you. They're all going to be different. Some will want to see the first chapter of your book. Some will want the entire manuscript. Some will want everything in a single PDF document with 12-point font and double spaced, and your email and your mailing address in the header, and it goes on and on. If you fail to abide by these requirements, they're going to very easily and with no guilt at all reject or ignore your application before they've even begun to investigate it. And unfortunately, that's just part of the culture of this world. It's a measure that can be easily applied by people who are entirely are under a great deal of demand. You know, you think of in the book world, literary agents in particular are probably some of the most in demand human beings on the planet. They get a ton of emails, a ton of queries, a ton of applications. And so if someone hasn't failed at the first hurdle to read through the requirements, then they're too bad. So really make sure that you are clear on what this agent or what this publisher requires from you, and act accordingly. One of the things you're going to want to pay attention to in your research is whether this publisher actually accepts queries from non-agented writers and individuals. Some publishing houses, typically smaller ones, local or boutique or niche publishing houses, do accept applications, do accept queries from authors who don't have an agent representing them. Penguin Random House, Doubleday Canada, Virago, for instance, the big houses, they do not deal directly with writers who are aspire to be published by them. They are accessible only through literary agents. So the literary agents are kind of the key holders into these upper echelon publishing houses. So again, it comes back to, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve with this book? Where do you want to see it published? How do you want to see it enter the market? And then choosing whether that means, for instance, if you've written like a book on local flora and fauna on your in the region of your country, then you could absolutely find a small publisher local to the area who will be delighted to hear from you, and easy to approach directly without an agent. If you're writing the next, you're aspiring to write the next Sally Rooney novel, then you are going to want an agent. And just as you've done with the editor, so it's time to find the right agent, the right publisher for you. Again, there's lots of ways you can do this. Twitter is inarguably an excellent resource for finding agents and the kinds of books these agents are looking for. There's a lot of other ways you can do this too. There's, Google search is a great place to go. One of my more niche recommendations is that you read the books that you love, that have things in common with the book that you have written, and you read the acknowledgements page. Invariably, the author of the book that you love and could reference as a kind of contemporary of your book, for instance, say you let's use Sally Rooney as an example. Well, it's best to use less big best-selling books. So let's say, okay, In the Dream House by Maria Machado. I've forgotten I think I've forgotten her middle name there, but In the Dream House by Maria Machado, that is a stunning memoir. She writes in vignettes. She experiments with different genres. You could use that book as a reference point to your own memoir that is experimental with genre and uses vignettes to convey a piece of a much larger story, for instance. If you go to Maria Machado's In the Dream House and go to the acknowledgements page, you will likely find the name of her agent. And of course, you'll see on the spine of the book the name of her publishing house. This is very, very useful information, because that agent or has already shown that they love this kind of work. It's not to say that they're going to be looking for something that's very, very similar. it's up to you to write a book that is independent enough and unique enough that that an agent wouldn't find that. But it gives you these kind of breadcrumbs to follow. So get together all of those books, those modern books that you really love, and take a look at who is the agent to this author. Then take a look at this agent's page. What is she publishing? What are they looking for? What genres does he adore? What kind of protagonists are they looking for? And any time that you find a match, there is a publisher that you, or an agent that you want to query, and you should be mentioning any alignment that you find between yourself, your book, and this agent or this publisher's interests and what they're looking for. And that includes sharing a hometown with this agent. So when you're writing your query letter, mentioning, as I say, any alignments that your book has, your project has with things that they're looking for. Know your USPs and know your audience. USPs are your unique selling points. So, for instance, let's say you were writing that queer rom-com set in Brooklyn, in modern day Brooklyn, and it's a kind of a time travel ghost story with a cast of adorable, lovable misfits, which is the general kind of premise of Casey McQuiston's One Last Stop, which is I clearly thoroughly enjoyed. Your unique selling points are all of those things that I just mentioned: the place, the time, the quality of the characterization, the main tension or dynamic. So it's a love story, but it's a love story that is kind of challenged or threatened by this kind of time space continuum situation that's going on in this book. Think about, again, use the books that you've picked up. Think about the blurb on the back of your favorite books. For instance, if I pick up a novel and I read something like, okay, say like Paris, New Orleans, 1920s murder mystery with strong feminist protagonist, I'm like, boom, I don't care about anything else. I'm going to buy that book. I'm going to read that book. So what are your USPs when you pick up a book? What are the things that you hear that you just are like, yeah, sold, don't even worry about telling me anything more? And what are they relating to the subject of your book? What would your book blurb be? And use that as the backbone of your query letter. And along with that comes your audience. Who is your audience? Your audience could be you. And by you, I mean, for instance, women in their early to mid 30s, intersectionally feminist, romantic and hopeful with an activist kind of bent, into wellness, personal growth, and spiritual practices. You get the idea. So knowing your USPs and knowing your audience shows your potential publisher and your potential agent that you understand the market, that you understand where your book lies within the market, and you understand who you're writing this book for, and that hopefully that they will assume that that extends into the writing of the book, that you've written this from a place of knowledgeable, intelligent, an intentional storytelling for this person, and with these things in mind. And I will say, as you query your future agent, your future publishers, you must expect rejection, and do not allow it to affect your self-worth. This is very challenging, but this is the writer's cross to bear. You are literally creating from the heart and the guts, and you are offering that up on a plate for critique and rejection. And you're going to have to get used to that, baby. You are going to have to get comfortable and okay with that. And when it starts to wear you down, as it invariably will, take breaks. Do not keep going. Do not keep pushing when you're feeling like your confidence is taking a knock, like you're feeling burned out, that you're feeling tired, you're feeling disillusioned, you're feeling fucking angry at this whole situation, and you wish you had never begun. That's the time to press pause and take a step back, regroup, recenter, take care of yourself, and decide how and when and why you're going to proceed from there. Now, let's say that you get an acceptance letter. You receive an offer of representation from an agent or a publisher. It is time to negotiate. Okay? Is this right for you? This is the first question I want you to ask. It's so easy at this point. So many writers, all they think about is getting their book published. What about whether this publisher or this agent is actually right for you and right for your book? Are they going to do right by you? Are their values aligned with yours? Are they treating you well? Do you feel heard? Do you feel seen? Is this right for you? If no, stand by your values and choose to say no with no regrets. If yes, if they're right for you, negotiate. Consider your contract. Look at it, have a lawyer look over it, have a family member look over it. Decide, are you happy with this compensation? Are you happy with this agreement? You have the right to negotiate. This is a contract, a business agreement that you are undertaking with another person who is going to be your representative within the publishing realm. You want to make sure that this sits right with you. So let's say that this agent is totally right for you. You signed the contract, you've negotiated for your interests. Now what happens? You're going to be thrilled to hear this. More revisions. So before your agent sends their own pitches, their own queries to the publishing houses that you discuss and agree that you want to shoot for first, you're going to be doing some revisions. They are going to know things about the audience that you're sending these pitches to. They're going to know, for instance, what if you say you wanted to publish with Penguin Random House, that your agent's job is to know who's looking for this kind of book, what they want, and make sure that you give it to them in the best way possible. That is going to stay in integrity with the book that you have. This is not about changing the identity of your book to beyond recognition. No agent, no publisher worth their salt will ever make you or force you to change things about your book that you don't agree with, and they should never expect you to transform something that they've agreed to represent. So you're going to do revisions nonetheless. You're probably going to experience more rejections. This time, those rejection letters will come to your agent first, and they're going to be presented to you, and you're going to discuss the feedback that you get from these higher up acquisitions editors in their big publishing houses, in their big offices. What is the feedback they're giving, and how can you use that in useful ways to revise again your manuscript, or to not, depending on what you agree with. So let's say one of these beautiful acquisitions editors in one of these beautiful glass offices says, yes, I love this book. I want it. Let me buy it. Then a whole new process begins. There's more contracts. There's more negotiations. Remember that your agent doesn't typically take any money until they sign you with a publishing house. So there's all kinds of more logistics to be figured out as you sign a contract with your publishing house via your agent. There's more editing to do. So when an acquisitions editor at a publishing house says, I want this book, I want it, it takes your book to a meeting and they present it to the rest of the team, and they say, I want to buy this book, here's why, this is what I'm going to do with it, this is how we're going to sell it. If everyone agrees, then you get your contract, you sign your book deal, and the editing begins again in earnest. So your acquisitions editor now is going to be working with you through the manuscript. They're going to be reading, leaving notes, asking you to do certain things. And they're going to be making suggestions not only relating to, creative elements like plot, characterization, theme, etc., but also with an eye to the marketplace. So the market that you're going to be selling this book to, as well as the marketing strategy that they're going to use to sell this book and promote it and maybe get you on Oprah's, book list. So also through this time, there's design, there's production, there's distribution discussions happening with your agent, who is your go-between, your manager, and your negotiator. Once you have done your substantive edits with your in-house acquisitions editor, it will go for copy editing. The copy editor, who will be a third party, often freelance, you'll be introduced, and then you'll probably have a working email relationship where the copy editor reads through your manuscript, maybe sends you questions during the process, and then gives you the copy edited manuscript for you to go through again, accept the changes they've made, and make any additions or alterations that they think are relevant to the clarity, style, and grammatical and technical accuracy of the book. Bearing in mind that at this point, for any book that is being published by a traditional publisher, these timelines become strict. There are very strict timelines and deadlines relating to a book that's in production through a traditional publisher. So that's something to consider as well. As you go through, you're going to feel like, whoa, okay, this is happening really quickly now, and I need to get this done. After the copy edit, once you've done your piece there, it's time for the book to be designed and laid out in proofs. Now, what that means is that the electronic version of your book, which is basically page by page, what it's going to look like, front cover, back cover, book spine, front matter, which is all the publishing details, first edition published 2022 by ECW or whatever, blah, blah, blah. All of that is going to be created in a PDF document. And that document, those proofs, are then going to be sent to another different freelance editor for proofreading. And they're going to take those electronic proofs, that PDF document that is the book in electronic form, and they're going to look not just for final typos and errors in spacing and formatting, but make sure that that everything within that final book is accurate and in perfect condition, including spacing, widows and orphans, which are the lines that you don't just want a single word or two words hanging at the top of a page in a new page. Technical things like that. At that point, there's very little for you to do. You will get to see those final proofs with the proofread. You'll have a few more things to do in relation to that, and then we go on to galleys and arcs. Now, galleys and arcs are a little bit less common than they used to be. The galleys are the print of the book that is kind of like the test print. So we're testing for the color of the cover, the design of the cover, as well as the layout in the book, and making sure that it's all perfect. Often nowadays, the galleys and the arcs are one thing. Arcs are advanced reader copies. And so they will be they may have been made before the proofread was completed. So they're just slightly imperfect pre-first editions that will go out as freebies to people for early review, whether that be your bookstagrammers or well-known authors who are happy to review your book. And that is about it. At that point, your book is moments away from being printed, distributed, placed on the shelves. Your book tour is being prepared and organized. And there you have it. That is the basic roadmap of taking your first draft from manuscript to marketplace, from rough draft to published on the shelf book. So, I hope that was energizing, informative, and exciting. The conversations that follow in this series will elaborate and give you a more broad, organic, and conversational view of this process and of the industry from a multitude of angles and experiences. But I hope this has provided you with a really strong foundation from which to really sit back and enjoy the nuances and the stories and experiences of the incredible women that were gracious enough to join us for this Manuscript to Marketplace series. So please join us, reach out, leave comments, let us know what you enjoyed, and check out our directory where you can book one-on-one calls with myself and a number of our Manuscript to Marketplace guests at the click of a button and get your questions answered, your pages read, your strategy discussed with. All right. I wish you all the best. I hope you have a fabulous time with us and see you in there.